So I left the corporate world to have choice. And so if someone's, we're to work with someone, we want to actually enjoy working with them.
In this episode, we talk to Emily Wallace, who runs and owns her own buyers advocacy business. We talk about the value of specialisation, how to build credibility and brand awareness through social media. And Emily shares with us her top tips on how to navigate the property market during this pandemic. Hope you enjoy. So, you've been saying that you've been mad busy doing a little bit of podcasting yourself and I imagine, pretty busy with work. How have you been generally?
Yeah, work's been pretty busy. We're just actually in the process of launching or pre-launching a first home buyer option because, that's what the market is after at the moment, is a more affordable but accessible option for first home buyers. So that's I think that's going to keep us busy to the end of the year, to be honest. And then, just generally business, life, everything since lockdown's finished. It's been all systems go.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your family and just give our listeners a little bit more of an understanding about you?
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Emily. I'm originally from Tasmania, and I moved to Melbourne when I was 18 to study at Monash. In terms of how I landed to where I am now, fast forward a number of years, and I have always had a strong interest in property, and I ended up in my own business as a buyer's advocate. We can unpack that further, but at high level, I now run my own business, and my family is all still in Tasmania. I'm going down at Christmas time to visit them, and I've created a life here in Melbourne. Managed to stay through the pandemic, although it was tempting to potentially move somewhere else. I've stayed, and really enjoying everything.
What did you do at school?
What did I do at school?
Yeah, what was you said you went to Monash, so you...
Oh, yeah. So I studied a double degree in primary school education and arts was my degrees.
And it just wasn't your thing, or just you felt that there was greater opportunities elsewhere, or you just stumbled across property advocacy, buyers advocacy? How did that happen?
Yeah, it's an interesting journey, I guess. So I finished my degree. I actually decided that the classroom wasn't for me, more so that progression that I wanted. It was more about how long you'd been there rather than how good you were as a teacher. And I actually went into education recruitment. So I helped other teachers get jobs in schools, and I managed the school portfolio. And I did that for about 2 years and went up to management positions, and then got approached by another company to come and head up their recruitment team as well, and jumped across. And in terms of how the buying came about, I actually saw a sponsored ad on LinkedIn, which is one of my favorite platforms. And at the time I hadn't really used LinkedIn, and it said, do you enjoy property? Do you want to run your own business? Do you want to quit the 9 to 5? And after about 2 hours on the phone to the founder of that particular institute, I signed up to learn more about what being a buyer's advocate was. And within 3 months, I quit my corporate job and started my own business from scratch in the industry, which was, looking back, I wouldn't advise people do that. It was a very, very tough 6 months when I first started. Very tough, in many aspects, but
how was the decision made, Emily? Like, how did it just come? Like, you made a very solid decision. Like it seems like it was an instinctive decision. Mm-hmm. How did you rationalize it, or was it more of a gut feel thing? How did you actually make that call? Because it is a big one.
A bit of both. So I'm I'm not an over analyzer. I do go on gut feel a lot, but when I understood the US model, so for reference for the listeners, 98% of transactions in the US involve a buyer's advocate and a selling agent. And when I looked at that model, when I saw the progression in Australia, I knew it was something that I could be, help form what it is like in Australia to have a buyer's advocate. And I saw a gap in the market, saw a niche. And to be honest, if I'd overthought it, I probably wouldn't have quit my job. If I'd actually run the full financials and the full feasibility, I probably wouldn't have quit my job. But I'm so glad that I did, and I made it work.
Yep. Yep. Could you give us a bit of I suppose, a little bit more of an understanding about what your particular practice does?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
So, being a buyer's advocate, we only work with buyers on the property transaction. So, we're not involved in selling any properties just for the sale of their home. We just help people buy properties. I specifically, the company specifically works with first and family home buyers. So we don't purchase any investment properties. That's not where our specialization is. We are very much about taking the emotion and stress out of a very life-changing decision, big decision for people. But again, I guess that education piece comes into it with the first home buyers. They've never bought before, they don't understand. So we hold their hand through the whole process of sourcing, inspecting, and negotiating properties across Melbourne. And that comes in various forms, but traditionally it's in a full service form where we actually take your brief and do everything for you on your behalf. So you don't have to speak to the real estate agents.
Must be it must be amazing for a couple or a family or even an individual who have never gone through the process to have someone just go and take you through the whole process from where to go. It must be very unnerving to do it yourself. How have you found the experience, and how grateful are people afterwards when you've gone through it with them?
It's the thing that they don't know what they don't know. When I'm pulling out terms and conditions of certain contracts, or I'm, at an inspection and picking up pieces of the house and saying, hey, have you considered this? Have you thought of that? I wouldn't buy it because of X, Y, Z. It's not until they go through the process that they understand how much they needed me. And yes, they're very thankful, particularly when we source off-market properties, so properties that you can't find anywhere online. They're quite grateful for the access to extra options for them outside of what they could find on their own.
It's interesting that you've gone down a route that it took me many years to get the idea of, that I couldn't, basically spread myself across so many different areas and just take on all clients and all walks of life. It was an impossibility for me. I learnt that slowly and the hard way, maybe. Perhaps because our industry in financial planning is predominantly, you can help everyone you do. We've gone down the track of specialization. When did it become apparent to you that specialization was really important and to you, and what benefits have you seen with specialization?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because particularly when you start a business, right? And for those listening that are business owners, they would know this. You just want people through the door. As blunt as it sounds, you
Yeah.
really need some credibility. You need some clients. So in the first instance, I actually did take on an investor client. I actually engaged a third-party provider with the data to help me, which was actually really beneficial. And we bought very well for that client. But the actual reason I don't work with investors is because I don't personally enjoy it. I get the real joy out of the emotion of that first home buyer, family home buyer. And in terms of deciding to specialize, it was pretty much after that first investment purchase where I was like, I'm not feeling how I should feel that I've bought for this client. And they were thankful, but they weren't, the response was not the same as an owner. It was an investor response, which is, yep, great, deal done.
Well, I suppose the heart's not in it, right? When it comes to an investment as much, and that's probably how it should be. But it's interesting that you've sort of suggested that, it's really important for you to have that joy, that sort of connection. Yeah,
definitely. And even refining down even further, now that we say Melbourne, but Melbourne is such a big city. So we refine even further on where we will take clients and where we won't. So I think that's really important. But more than anything, it's working with people that we actually like and we enjoy working with, because that's the choice. I left the corporate world to have choice. And so if someone's, way to work with someone, we want to actually enjoy working with them.
yeah. Are there any other benefits that you've seen as spillover, or surprises that spill over as a result of actually being quite pointy and specialized with respect to who you're working with? Is there anything that?
Yeah, I guess, look, like attracts like. So when you're buying for a particular client of a certain demographic in a certain area, it's highly likely their friends and family are in that same area and similar values and principles. So Yes, there are benefits because as you start to have that domino effect of getting one and getting more, it becomes easier, and actually becomes easier to say no to people that aren't a good fit because you have enough of the people who are a right fit. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that's a huge benefit of it.
Yeah, and would you say you're pretty clear on who you want to work with, and could you perhaps define and describe what your ideal sort of client looks like for
Yeah,
us?
definitely. So there's two types. Obviously, first home buyers. There's the first home buyers who are in the apartment market, and usually they're under $600,000 because it's stamp duty exemptions, and they're usually looking in the inner ring of the CBD. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, outdoor space for a dog. In the inner ring of Melbourne. That's basically the profile we work with in that particular pocket. And their first home buyer, they never purchased and they see value in having someone on their side.
Mm.
The other, I guess, profile we work with is the family home upsizer. So, two working professionals who are usually in a service-based industry themselves, like they understand the value of service, and they're looking for their next move. So they've usually got 1 or 2 children under 3. They are a growing family. School zones are super important to them, and they're more looking at that sort of 1.5 to 2 mil purchase price in the sort of next ring of Melbourne. So your Baysides, your eastern suburbs, sometimes a bit further down the coast as well now with interest down in Mornington Peninsula. Yeah, so they're the sort of two key profiles that we would work with.
Do you think it seems like not surprising that obviously given you're relatively young as well, and your ideal client is in the same sort of age demographic. Do you think that that's by design?
Uh, yes, I guess so. I guess I would attract people who may be similar to me. By the same token, though, I have purchased for a number of people who are not the same demographic as
Mm.
me. They
Mm-hmm.
might be sort of 50 to 60, single,
Mm-hmm.
buying on their own. Maybe they have come out of a divorce or a separation and they're downsizing. That's been a demographic that, in that instance, I'm almost like the super knowledgeable daughter that helps them through the process, which is a really nice role to play. Actually, I really enjoy that.
Yeah. I think this is probably the case for me, not so much these days because I've got much more grays going through my beard, but there's this sort of reverse ageism sort of situation. Have you ever felt sort of any of that sort of aspect of people sort of looking in and saying, oh, well, how long have you been around for? You're relatively young. And how do you combat that sort of attitude? Because I obviously working with retirees myself, especially in the early days, there was that, and maybe some of it was in my own head as well. But wonder how you combat that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think I've never personally seen my age as a barrier or a factor in what I do. However, I'm aware that the market can see it that way.
Mm.
And I look at myself as a consumer. Personally, when I am using someone's service, I want them to have a level of experience, but I don't need them to have 20 years experience. I need them to know what they're on about. I need to like them. I need to trust them. So when someone, in fact, to the point where my profile, I'm on a list of top advocates, and there's 10 of us, and I'm number 5 on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And my profile opening line says, if you're looking for an advocate with 10 years experience, I'm not your person. Keep looking at other profiles.
Mm-hmm.
And that's as simple as it is. If you want 10 years, that's not me. But if you want someone who is doing things very, very differently to someone who has been in it 10, 20 years, then maybe I am your person. So it's just about framing that and then attracting the people who actually see value in that.
Mm-hmm. And I hear you with respect to when you're talking about sort of the joy of working with somebody that is, ideal and really values the service. Has there been ever times where, based upon, trying to get the thing off the ground and trying to get the business moving and the financial pressure associated with it, that you've actually pursued profitability and then sort of come back to it and go, you know what, this is not really helping my vitality, my health. Has there been any of those times, and how have you changed?
Yeah, look, I've definitely taken on clients in the past that, although I definitely delivered a great result, the working relationship probably wasn't at the 100% level. And that's not because we weren't able to deliver on service. It was more from a personal point of view, that there were more ideal clients out there for me. And I think it's understanding that saying no allows you more room to say yes. But when, you're looking at the financials and you're working out what you need to, particularly in the beginning, what you need to bring in revenue for a certain month, and that it can, I think you wouldn't be being honest if you didn't say that is a factor in the beginning. But now we're in a really good position where that's not even a question. Like, if someone's not suited for us, there's not even a maybe, like, oh, we could take them on. It's like, no, we know they're not right. We've got plenty of other people who would be right. And we are now at that level where we can be that, I guess, selective and fair, because we don't. If you take on a client who's not your ideal client and you regret it, then the service experience, although it will be to a certain level, it's just not going to be the same as if you were working with someone who is your absolute ideal.
Well, yeah, and I imagine, like, again, my experience has been that if you're replicably looking after a certain client, then you're building your business around that ideal. So your efficiency, your value is in the services that you provide to that ideal client. So as soon as you get something non-standard, it takes you more time, you're more inefficient. And so it's a time game in a service business as opposed to, more product businesses. It's a time game, and you're the most precious resource to your clients. So you need to be there and available, I imagine.
Definitely. Although, just going down a side note here, there is, and there has been, particularly for me recently, the ability to adapt to meet the market needs, but not at the level that so obviously what I mean is in my services, we have that really full service component, but there has been a knocking from the market to say, we need something that's not full service, but we want you. And it's about adapting to that and recognizing that and understanding your level of involvement in that. And setting client expectations, because that, I think, is super powerful. If you can adapt and actually not dismiss that pocket of the market, accommodate them and be happy with it, then that's a real win.
Yes. But I suppose, again, going back to your full service, your cut service is just an abridged to the full service. So you've just got, you've got that capability. It's not like you're going out and trying to learn something different.
Correct. It's the same. It's the same system processes, just refined.
Just more refined. Yeah, that's interesting. Really interesting. Yeah. It seems like you're extraordinarily busy, right? So you're doing podcasts, and you're obviously got a presence on social media and so on. I just wondered how you balance, your life with the business, and have there been any times where you felt like you haven't quite got it right, and that maybe your health has suffered a little bit, or
Yeah, probably. I mean, the first year and a half, I had very minimal commitments outside of work. So I apart from seeing my family and friends and stuff, I didn't have a partner. I don't have kids. I didn't really have any extracurricular activities that I was committed to. So I would, do 12, 14-hour days for weeks on end. And I was doing, the role of 3 people, basically, until I could afford to bring someone in. And it's a whole another debate about spending money to make money. But I think the biggest thing was, I definitely hit a point where I burnt out in about July last year. So that was about 9 months into the business, where I didn't even want to take a holiday. I thought the world was going to end if I took time off, and I got really anxious about it. And I'd never experienced that before. But now there's definitely a really good balance. And I think there's a few reasons to that. Number one, I value my health more. So, walking every morning is non-negotiable. Trying to eat better. It's always a work in progress. I like chocolate way too much.
Yeah, same here.
I have Kobe on my team now. So there's more balance on where my hours are spent and how they're spent. And also, so my partner is also a business owner, and he is a few years ahead of the game than me in terms of he's been doing it for a while. And he's to a level where he's got such a good balance, and I'm learning from that, adapting some things that he's picked up along the way. He's been a business owner for 7 years, and I've only been one for 2. So, that 5-year difference is a big difference. So there's lots of different factors that definitely play into learning and understanding more. But I think it's about being non-negotiable with your time and where you spend it. And and not wasting it on activities that are not dollar productive, outsourcing where it's appropriate, and valuing time for yourself as well.
Did you ever get concerned that, at the height of it, that there was this kind of insatiable addiction to work, and filling your time in with work because perhaps there wasn't a development of other things outside of that? Was there a concern on that? Was that the balancing act that was problematic for you?
Yeah, look, I think one of the biggest things was feeling like I always had to be working or I wasn't working on the business, because, I knew how much output there had to be in order to achieve results. And so, yeah, there was a bit of an obsession with that sort of thing of, making sure that I was putting it in enough time and seeing things come through. Yeah.
Has the business gone backwards as a result of you working less hours than you were before? No.
No, it hasn't.
Surprise, surprise, everybody.
No, the business is actually, doing quite well, especially considering the COVID, situation.
Mm-hmm. How important is outsourcing to you, and how have you managed to get to the position of being able to let go of certain things? And what do you let go of? What's the principle behind letting go of something?
Look, I think the biggest thing is, understanding where your time is best spent and what skill set it is that that you're best at. Some business owners will be awesome at the sales part of the piece, and the client relationships. Others will actually be more of a technical person. They're actually better in the back end of the business and should be bringing someone else in to be the face and be the sales. And it's understanding where that lies. And then outside of that, having the list of everything that you can physically do, but maybe not to the best of your ability, and outsourcing that component so that you are actually maximizing your time, and then sending the rest to someone else who that's their skill set and that's what they're paid for.
No, perfect. I also note that you've obviously, in your reflections about the work that was previously being done and so on, in the past, how'd you go and how'd you fare with the pandemic? I mean, how adversely did it affect the actual business itself, and how are you with respect to the personal challenge of it, I suppose?
Look, the industry was in shutdown for a number of weeks. I am fortunate that I do have another business that's in education and training. At that point in time, a lot of people were wanting to learn. So, they were trying to work out what can I do in COVID that's going to benefit me. So I changed tactic very quickly and started promoting my online courses and managed to, I wouldn't say bring in the same revenue by any means, because it's a lower, price point, but certainly recoup rather than doing nothing.
Yeah, and what sort of online courses were you offering?
So I do a lot around LinkedIn training, so I had webinars and workshops that I was able to facilitate to corporates and also to more of a B2C individual group thing, which was good fun. That sort of held me up. But I can't imagine how I would have felt if I didn't have anything to do in those 6 to 8 weeks. That's probably the only thing that kept me mentally going, because I was really bored. I mean, there's plenty of things to do, but I was so bored.
Yeah, it's a challenge to have so much time on your hands. Is there anything that you think will be incorporated into your business going forward that wasn't there before, prior to the pandemic?
Look, I think people are more receptive to meeting online now, and that eliminates a lot of travel time for us, especially given the industry that we are in. It's probably the main adaptation, but there's, to be honest with you, not as the industry as a whole, real estate as a whole has picked up the pace on the tech side of things, but we were already pretty online with the systems and processes. It hasn't changed drastically, but it's probably that face-to-face element that I still like meeting people face-to-face.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah.
Yeah, but if it makes sense to do a Zoom, then we do a Zoom.
I actually don't know how to conduct podcasts face-to-face. Emily, you'll have to show me at some point in time. So someone said, "Oh, can we meet?" And I said, "Yeah, we probably could, but how do I work this technology to get it going?" Which is really strange, right? It's kind of a sad indictment on the world at the moment. What do you hope to take away from the pandemic and what's happened? Like what are the key learnings for you?
Look, I think as everybody would, they value the little things more. Family, friends, time with them, and being able to have access to them, and not be separated by a state. Certainly, it was a struggle when I couldn't get back to Tassie. I really wanted to, and I think if anything, that one of the learnings was how can I make long term? How can I make a business that can operate regardless of where I am in the world? Because it would have been great to up and leave to Tassie for 8 weeks to be with my family during that time. But I felt I needed to be here and on the ground. So that's probably one major learning. And long term, I do have visions to have the opportunity where I can up and leave for 3 months and the business won't be impacted. We're not at that level yet, but there's certainly programs and systems in the works that could allow that to happen.
Yeah. How challenging is it to work in Melbourne when all of your family's in Tassie? And was the reason for the opportunity that Melbourne presented compared to Tasmania?
Yeah, so definitely when I moved here, when I moved here when I was 18, it was a completely different world to growing up in Tassie. Hobart's basically a big country town. Everyone knows everyone. The city's, 2 blocks wide, and there's no real high rises. I think the highest one's 7 levels. The opportunities here, particularly in real estate, a buyer's advocate in Tasmania, I don't think would work unless you were buying for Melbourne buyers in Tasmania. Potentially, you needed eyes around. But just the network here, there's so many more agents, planners, brokers. The network is so wide. That's really the reason why I stayed. The opportunity, and I love Melbourne as a city, and it's only an hour from Tassie, so it's not that far away.
Yep. And you talked about some of the work that you were doing during the pandemic with the online courses, and I've actually done one, which has been fantastic. So, specifically, what got you into social media? Moving into that in such a strong way, you've got a really strong presence there. Is it challenging? How did you start?
Yeah, look, I think I started because I saw a gap, particularly on LinkedIn. There was no educational content being put out at all. There was not an industry leader in the area, like someone actually giving value. That's how I started on LinkedIn, and then it grew from there. Instagram is a very visual platform. I get a lot of interaction on there. A number of prospective clients come through Instagram. I just decided that I had nothing to hide, and that the person I am that, we speak to in the office is the same person as online. And people underestimate the value of that, like even we were a podcast recording yesterday. And it's funny, I was thinking about last night, a lot of people asking, oh, is it still recording? Because I want to say something off the record. And I'm not a person who says things off the record. It's always on the record. And what I think is what I say. And I don't, for lack of a better term, I don't really care if people like it or not, because that's just me being me.
Where did that come from, Emily? Because that took me a while as well to get my head around. I'm exactly the same now, but it took me a while, and I don't know whether it was just the convention of the industry that I'm in, or the fact that I'm working with so many more older clients than I am, that I felt that I needed to sort of not show my true colors in a way. Not that there was anything bad to hide. It was just that, I am young. I crack a joke every now and then. What got you there?
I don't know. Like,
it's you.
I know that friends, like there's a particular friend who's asked me this question many times. She's like, I'm trying to be more myself, and I'm trying to do this and do that. I don't know, because I've just always been that way. It's probably, I don't know, my parents probably instilled a fair bit of confidence in me from a young age. And that's the way that they are. And yeah, like obviously I know when not to say certain things. Like I have a filter. Not like I can't read social situations or things like that. It's just that there's a level that, pretty much how I speak to clients is how I speak to my family and my friends. That's just who I am.
It's your belief system. This is my belief system. I suppose it's a win if somebody chooses to disengage because they don't buy in, and it's a win if they choose to engage, but you're being honest and you're speaking the truth. So
exactly, yeah, definitely.
What's your strategy on social media? What's your plan to increase awareness? How do you, what's the?
Well, we have been doing vlogs, so video blogs essentially. We've got
Yes.
a videographer on board. The power of that, although hard to quantify, is pretty cool. People actually get an insight as to what your life is like, and it buys you so much more trust and credibility. And people go, oh, I'm like that, like I'm a buyer that needs that, or I'm someone who resonates with that. So my plan really is to keep content coming. Do I have a content plan? No, outside of the fact that it's Top Tip Tuesday every Tuesday, and now it will be a vlog every week, and one additional video. I post content as I think of it. And I'm constantly thinking of what can I add value and what can I do next. And I constantly put notes in my phone, and it's just a way of thinking. So I don't have the next month of content mapped out. Some people would, shudder at that, being like, oh my God, how do you organize it? But no, I just post. I think of it, social media is a platform to speak, and I don't really plan what I say very often. So it just comes as it comes as a thought, is what I post basically.
How is I've heard the key to social media is also consistency. How do you keep consistent with the posting and not dropping the ball? Not saying anything for 4 months.
Yeah. Well, look, obviously Top Tip Tuesday is now, that's accountable to every week. I did actually drop Top Tip during the pandemic because people weren't buying and it just wasn't relative to the audience.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's back up and running. So that's one accountability piece. The other piece definitely is the fact that we actually, we pay a videographer to come in and film us and vlog. So that gets posted every single week. Outside of that, look, it's just a matter of, I constantly think about it. So it's just a habit that's formed. The consistency is key. It compiles up over time. You don't know who's watching. You can see the number of people watching, but you don't know who's watching. And you never know. Like, I've had messages saying, I've been watching you for 6 months and I've been waiting till we're ready to buy because I want to contact you, need to use your services. So yeah, that's it's always interesting where it comes out.
And seemingly you're really involved at the ground in terms of working on commenting and posting to others and so on. I suppose a lot of business owners might be wondering, is it possible to do it, but to have others help with certain functions that, because not everyone is as savvy with technology or really wants to be on social media as much from a from a time perspective. So, what would you say to them? Is it better to be involved yourself? What are your thoughts?
Look, I think the content itself, like if you're doing video, it has to be you,
Of
but
course.
the posting element can be outsourced. Lots of virtual assistants that can be doing that sort of stuff. To be honest with you, I haven't investigated it too heavily, but I do know there's social media management teams, which are becoming more and more popular. There's outsourced VAs that you can get overseas, even locally. There are measures to help, but yeah, I personally haven't investigated them too heavily.
Apologies for this question because it's a tough question to answer, but with respect to social media and building a presence, what are the tips that you'd give someone who hasn't got anything on there and hasn't started? What are the main things that you would sort of suggest they need to do to get to the point where they've got something out there?
Look, I think the biggest thing is certainly around getting started. Like, just start with something, but know your brand identity. You can't start with one sort of theme of what you are and then sort of gradually change. Like, have a brand identity, including fonts, colors, themes that you stick with as your style guide, so that when you're posting content, it is consistent in the way that it feels. Your brand needs to have a voice and a feeling about it. I see too many people just repost other people's stuff, and I'm like, that's not. You might agree with it, but that's not you. So create your own content with your own brand and style would be my advice.
Has there been any major surprises or opportunities that have presented themselves as a result of just a singular post?
Yes. So that vlog, the most recent vlog we put up, I got a phone call yesterday. And this guy, I thought it was a new client and it wasn't, but it was even better than that. He said, look, I watched your vlog. And he goes, I've never watched an 8-minute video on LinkedIn in my life. I watched your vlog. You were looking for 5 key points for a property in Brunswick, and I actually own an investment in Brunswick. I don't want to sell it through an agent, but if you had a buyer for it, I'd sell it to you. And so I'm dealing directly with vendors. I cut out the agent completely. And that was literally he just said, look, I've seen you around, but I haven't really watched your content. I watched that and I just thought I have to give you a phone call. So yes, there are times, and look, there's people who have seen a particular post. It's just hit the right chord with them, whether it be about off markets, about a buying tip, about the market in general, and they've picked up the phone and called because they had seen that content and saw value in it.
Hmm. Hmm. How do you thinking as well, like how do you process a situation where when you're looking at your first few blogs or vlogs or posts, is there ever a time where you look at it and you go, wow, that I would never do that again, or that was that was that was a bit embarrassing, or you're a bit unnerved about it, or you're pretty cool with that?
I don't review a lot of stuff. Like my videographer is probably more particular than I am in terms of structure, in terms of what's in there and things like that. And I'm trying to learn from that, but also know that like close enough is good enough. Like if I wanted to post perfect content every time, I'd never post. So no, I've never really looked back on something and thought, no, I shouldn't have said that, or no, I shouldn't have done that. I'm sure there's people that do, but I'm not one of them. I just, just put it up, get it out there. And as long as it looks, you're happy to put your name to it, then yeah, I don't really, there's nothing I regret in the content I've posted. No, not at all. Even when it's been controversial posts, it sparked a conversation.
I think again, like, coming back to, the idea of specialization, sometimes when you specialize, you leave people that you might be profitable to take on additional clients, but you're sort of saying, no, I can't work with you. And it takes courage to do that, right? But it also takes courage to start up a social media program when you are posting and posting and posting, and especially in the early days, and you're not getting not much is happening. Was there a time period there that you felt like you were kind of, am I wasting my time here? Is this going to work? Should I just stop and concentrate on something else? Did that ever come to mind?
No, not really, because it was accumulation over time. So I could see the views going up. I could see the comments coming through, and it does happen. It's just a matter of consistency and being able to have content out there that will consistently do well. As long as you're producing good content, you can expect good results. I never really questioned putting out content. It's a continuation of doing that constantly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously there's a lot of different things to you personally, and obviously there's a lot of things that we've just discussed within the business context. How do you define success?
Look, I think success is being able to raise others up while you're raising yourself up. It's not about being the biggest and the best. It's actually about bringing other people along the journey and helping them succeed as well. I don't believe that, sort of making it to the top as being you at the top. It's actually about having people grow with you. And, as you know, in Australia, there's the tall poppy syndrome of people putting other people down as they're going up. And I just, like, if they're doing well and they have a market and they're succeeding, I'm talking about in the B2B space here, that's awesome. With my clients, if they're doing well, I'm doing well. Do you know what I mean? It's helping them through a journey that they're taking their next step in life, and my business is growing. So to me, success is being able to grow with people rather than growing to the top, and feeling like there's people below you. I just don't really believe in that.
Is there any particular KPIs, like certain things that you look for to say that you're on the right track?
When people say things like, we couldn't have done it without you, it's a common sentence. We couldn't have done it without you, or, absolutely love what you're posting. I've taken so much value from what you're putting out there. Keep going. Comments and feedback like that, probably a loose KPI, but certainly does help.
Yeah. Does the podcast name, It's Never About Money, resonate with you in any way?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I know when we touched on starting the business and earlier on, was saying about the financials and having things through the door. To me, then it's not about money. It was about keeping afloat more than anything, which I guess you do need money to keep afloat.
Yeah.
then I'm sure there's many people who would change the profession they're in. If it was just a dollar figure and it was continual dollar figures in, and instant gratification, then you would be in a different industry. I don't know what would, give you money ticking over every single day, in big volume, but that happens over time, and the money does come, and it continues to come, and you start to, increase and develop as you go along. But yeah, it definitely resonates with me because it's more than that. It's definitely, beyond the dollar figures. The dollar figures are almost an afterthought, although they need to be front of mind to keep things viable. They are almost an afterthought. And I was like, oh, that was, we did a lot of content. We did a lot, helped a lot of clients, and the money came. It's like it's a after.
Yeah, I mean, your insights, you've been dealing with a lot of probably business owners as well and B2B. So, the ones that are most successful, do you think their thought process is really on how I can just improve financially, like solely, or like what's the defining characteristic between a business owner that you see as being successful versus not?
Yeah, look, I think people, successful business owners are really those who are in it for a passion and for a cause. They're working to a bigger goal, a bigger project. And you gotta have a business mind. Don't get me wrong. You can't not at all focus on money, because that's what business is, right? It's
Yep,
generating revenue.
sure.
But it's more about that is secondary or alongside an actual cause or passion or vision that you have. If it's solely about dollars, and you'll be pretty fast that will shine through. As we say in real estate, it's commission breath. Commission breath through the agents, just chasing their 2% of selling someone's house. They're not actually in it for the, helping someone.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it shows in the businesses, doesn't it? Like, you can tell when someone's actually not really passionate about it, because it kind of shows in the way that they approach the client, the business processes, the services. It feels that way.
Yeah, definitely. And people steer clear from it. People can smell it out very quickly. And I actually think our generation is even more savvy on that. It's, the old school way seems to be a bit more dollars driven, but this, newer generation, it's not the dollars, it's the cause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what keeps you up at night, and what's still to do?
Nothing much keeps me up at night, because I enjoy 8 hours sleep every single night.
Good.
It'd be very rare for me to be tossing and turning. I'm out like a light at about 10:15 and wake up at 6:15.
Yep.
But I know that's, I'm taking that literally. As for
I'm glad you're sleeping.
what keeps my mind ticking is always, how can I grow? How can I be bigger in the sense of covering more, helping more people, and where do I continually see myself going? That's an ongoing thought. And yeah, I guess just thinking about the direction of where everything's headed, and continually thinking about that.
If money didn't matter, what would you change about the business now?
Not really much, to be honest. Like, we're in a very good spot where it's working with really ideal people. And I think that's all you can ask for in a business, is to be working with good people. We probably wouldn't change too much in the operations. Maybe if on the flip side, not thinking about revenue, thinking about expense, if expenses weren't an issue, it'd be onboarding a whole lot more staff so we can cover more people in the right way and have a greater impact. But in terms of the other way around, where it's revenue, it's more that we're pretty happy with who we're working with, and we don't necessarily need volume with where we're at. We just need good people, and that's, that still remains. Yeah.
What about if actually money wasn't a problem again, and what would you kind of change about your life? Is there anything there? This is always the exciting question.
Tell you what, I saw a beautiful property online yesterday.
So you'd buy a property?
And I sent it.
True to label.
And I spoke to him this morning. He said, "Oh my God, I had a dream about that property last night." 3.7 mil in Queensland. If money was no factor, I can tell you now, it's the ability to make decisions that you just kind of go, yeah, let's do it. And we do that to an extent. There's things that we don't overanalyze and we go, yeah, that's a no-brainer, let's do it. Do we do it at the $3.7 million level? No. But it would, that would be pretty cool. But yeah, if money wasn't ever an issue, it would be choice, but it would also be giving back. You know, I think if you're at that level, it's almost a duty to give back. I think, you know, people have obviously given to you to help you to get you where you are. So giving back to those who have helped you along the way is super important.
And why would I use a buyer's advocate, even though I would?
Let me answer your question with a question. What I would say to people who are considering is, you know, how many off-market properties have you had access to in the last fortnight? And usually there's silence, because that's like, we are so connected to the agents. We get these off-market properties that are given to us before anybody else. Also, how many properties have you bought in the last 6 months? Again, there's silence, because it's trying to highlight that this is our 24/7.
Yes.
We know what we're doing.
Yes.
And without being rude, we can do a lot better than you can, because it's something we do every day of the week.
I think everyone can resonate with that idea that you can do a lot better than they can, because, you know, they work in some occupation where that's all they do as well. And we certainly couldn't sit in their shoes and do that competently. So, you know, and for such a monumental decision, such as purchasing your, you know, your first home, you want to get that right, don't you? So, you know, I think all the support and service is definitely appropriate. Obviously, that's not financial advice, guys. Remember that general disclaimer at the end of this podcast. Lastly, but very importantly, if you were an animal, what would you be and why?
Hands down, a giraffe.
A giraffe.
I was previously a giraffe anyway. I'm obsessed with giraffes. They have long eyelashes and they're tall.
Yep.
And they don't stop very often. They don't sit down for very long periods of time, which I struggle with greatly.
They don't what? Sorry, say that again. They don't sit down.
Yeah, they don't sit down. They actually only, because they are you know, how tall they are and how long it takes them to get up, it's actually a danger for them to sit down for longer than 20 minutes. Like, they're always looking and checking out predators. So yeah, hands down, I think I was a giraffe, and I probably would come back as one.
Cool. Well, you know, thanks so much for taking the time, you know, today out of your busy schedule, and enlightening us with your property tips and your views on business. It was sensational. Really enjoyed it, and look forward to catching up again.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you so much for having me on board, and I hope the listeners today have taken some value from the discussion. And awesome podcast idea. I love it, and excited to see who else comes on the show.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
I hope that this one was enjoyable to listen to, and there were some moments of value. If you have resonated in any way with the sentiments of this podcast, we would be delighted to direct you to our website, www.itsneveraboutmoney.com.au. for more free resources and education aimed at improving your capacity to make sound financial decisions for the benefit of your family. We wish you every success, however you define it.